I am your host, Gary Baumgarten. I welcome you to the show, and I remind you to go to reportergary.com. reportergary.com. That's where the Pal Talk News Network site resides. Please go there early and often, just like voting in Chicago, for stories that you may or may not see, hear, or read in the mainstream media, including the aforementioned story about WikiLeaks now having the goods, supposedly, on people who are using Swiss banks as tax shelters to evade taxes. And a former Swiss banker, you know, the Swiss are supposed to be the soul of discretion, turning that information over to Julian Assange. Assange says he's sitting on it until he can verify the information, and then he's going to release it in another 2 or 3 weeks. So that will be very interesting indeed. Something very troubling, and thank you, Cassandra, for jumping into the fray just as I lost my internet connection. I appreciate that. Something very serious occurred yesterday on Facebook. You know, today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day here in the United States of America, where we pause to remember the life and the legacy of that great civil rights leader, the modern-day Moses, as he was pronounced today by by Roger Madden. Excuse me, Roger Madden, who posted that story, or we posted that story at reportergary.com. Yesterday on Facebook, an event page popped up in commemoration of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. The name of the Facebook page was Kill a Jew Day. And it encouraged people to go where Jews congregate and find one or more to kill. Today, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We broke the story on the Pal Talk News Network website, and our readers and a bunch of other people filed complaints with Facebook and with the FBI. After several hours, Facebook finally got around to taking the site down. And then another site came up and they took it down. And then another site came up and they took it down. And then another site came up and they took it down. What was particularly disturbing was not that somebody would put up such a site, but that people signed on to participate in the event by the hundreds. To me, this is indicative of a very serious shift in what people feel comfortable proclaiming publicly in a way that it hasn't been proclaimed so blatantly and openly since the days of the Holocaust. Now, that's not to say that there haven't been anti-Semites all along, that there haven't been people who are supportive of those who would kill a Jew or kill Jews, but they've couched it, some of them by speaking behind closed doors, some of them by posting on their little websites that very few people visit. But rarely have we seen such an open endorsement in a public forum. Now, interestingly, and unrelated directly, but related in terms of mindset, is the fact that over the weekend as well, 4 synagogues and a Jewish school were vandalized in Montreal. Now, as I investigated this story, I found out that this has been going on for months and months in Montreal, where Jewish institutions have been attacked. What made this one so newsworthy, of course, was that 5 different buildings were vandalized in what authorities say was a coordinated and organized attack. Now, there seems to be no direct correlation between the hate site on Facebook and what occurred in Montreal, but the mindset is the same. And we are seeing as well a rise of anti-Semitism across Europe, a rise in anti-Muslim rhetoric across Europe, a rise in attacks on Christians in the Middle East. The intolerance is sadly seeping back into our combined societies in a way where people have taken it beyond rhetoric and have put it into action, where it is almost acceptable, at least in some circles, to talk about publicly killing a Jew, to attack a Jewish institution, to attack Muslims and say horrible things about Muslims, that Muslims ought to be killed, that their holy shrines and their Islamic countries should be nuked, and attacking Christians, as is happening in the Middle East. It's beyond reprehensible. And for the rest of us, the only thing we really have in response to that are our mouths, really. It is up to all of us to stand up and speak out against this. It doesn't matter which group it is that is being attacked. I am one who firmly believes that an attack against one is an attack against all. If somebody is being attacked because of their religion, their race, their national origin, their creed, the color of their skin, their religion, their sexual orientation, their political point of view, it is something that even if we are not part of that subgroup, even if we do not ascribe to their religious or political ideology, we have a responsibility as human beings to say, no, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. We cannot allow our societies to become so laissez-faire, so passive about these issues, that we take no action, that we look the other way. Well, that's not me or mine who are being attacked, because if we do that, the attacks will not only continue, they will accelerate. And we're going to have a kind of situation that allowed for the atmosphere that occurred to put the fascists into control in Eastern Europe, where the tanks rumbled across Europe, where the bombs fell on freedom and peace-loving peoples of Europe. I do not believe I am overstating this in the least. We have discussed this issue in this forum before, in the past several years, more than once. I quoted my now late father, a soldier in World War II, as saying that the anti-Semitic rhetoric that is now rearing its head again in this world is at a fever pitch that not only rivals, but is louder, it was his opinion, than occurred in the times leading up to World War II. You know, there was a guy by the name of Father Coughlin who was on WJR in Detroit, who was spewing anti-Semitic rhetoric on his radio show, which emanated from the shrine of the Little Flower, I think it's called, in Royal Oak, Michigan. 50,000 watt clear channel WJR. Literally half the states in the Union back then were listening to WJR, perhaps more than half the states in the Union. And it wasn't until after Pearl Harbor and the United States was in the war that they took him off the air with his pro-Nazi rhetoric. And we are seeing, and this will be discussed in larger measure on a new program tomorrow evening here on the Paltalk News Network, a rise of this kind of organized anti-minority sentiment in Europe, centered quite a bit now in England. There's a political party, the BNP, and there is a group of hooligans, footballers, skinheads, called the EDL, the English Defence League, whose second in command is a former Nazi. And there are those who are very concerned about this organization. There are those, by the way, tomorrow during the program, I am told, who will be defending the organization. This is not the way to deal with our cultural differences, in my opinion. Clearly, it is reprehensible to create an event on Facebook calling for the killing of somebody because of their religion. Now, I will tell you, the heartening part of all this are the numbers of people in such large numbers, non-Jews, who picked up the phone and called the FBI and who reported to Facebook what was going on. And that's exactly what we need to do as a society.